Welcome to the tutorial on how to complete a settlement statement. Now, this is sort of a funny tutorial because the settlement statement has been replaced by something called the closing disclosure. However, that took place on October 6th, which is just about a couple weeks ago. Um, and the form is very, very new, and there isn't a lot out there on it. In terms of finding stuff on the internet for you to take a peek at. But the essence of the part that the closing attorney will be preparing is basically the same in the settlement sheet and in the closing statement. It's just at a different point, but it's really almost identical. So I'm going to show you how to complete the settlement statement because that's what we've got on our system already. Um, and it, like I said, it's. I'll see if I can upload one that's a filled form so that you can see the portion that you're going to be responsible for and see how similar it is. So this form is obsolete, but the mechanism is the same. So we're going to use the old form, I think, just for ease of administration at this point, because the new form has been in play all of a week and a half or 2 weeks. So anyway, when you complete these forms, you at the top, what you do is you insert an X at the type of on the type of loan that you have. If it's an FHA loan, you click here. If it's a VA loan, you click here. If it's an uninsured loan, you click here, conventional uninsured or conventional insured. And then you list the name and address of the borrower slash buyer. So for purpose of your outside project, that's going to be you. The name and address of the seller is going to be the Browns, and the name and address of your lender, which is going to be your made up lender from your mortgage and your note. And the property address is the 32 Magnolia. And then your settlement agent is the person handling the closing agent. So it's typically the lender's attorney. You can make something up there. Could be the buyer's attorney if there's no lender involved. And place of settlement is the place where you physically are when you close the loan. And so that's what goes right there. And the settlement date is your closing date from paragraph 8 of your purchase and sales agreement. All right, that's all the easy stuff. Then the balance of the settlement sheet or the closing disclosure is very much the same, except for the closing disclosure. The second page is the first page, and this first page that we're looking at right here is actually the second page of the disclosure, the closing disclosure portion of the settlement sheet. It's become a longer document because they mushed up two documents into one. So it's the second half of the document, but the pages are reversed. So our second page is the first page, but it really does look very much the same. So you insert here your contract sales price from paragraph 7 of your purchase and sales agreement. And then these settlement charges come from the second page, and the total comes forward and goes right here. Right? The amount that the buyer deposited when he or she signed the purchase and sales agreement, as listed in paragraph 7, goes right here. The amount of your new loan, okay, which is in paragraph 26 of your purchase and sales agreement, and on your note and mortgage, is appearing right here. All right. Right here, lines 504, 504, 505, 506 if you needed it, where you list the existing liens from your title search. So if you're paying off the first mortgage, you put the payoff figure here. The second mortgage, you're putting it there. And the way you get the actual balance is you actually call the lender and you ask them to issue you a payoff statement, which will show you how much it will cost to pay off the loan as of a certain date. And then there's, if there were a third loan or an execution that needs to be paid off, an attachment, you list them right there. All right. Now I'm going to skip over and come to the second page. And what you'll notice in this is that, and you'll see it in the closing disclosure, everything's broken up left and right between borrower and seller. So things that the seller pays for end up in this column, things that the buyer ends up paying for end up in this column. So the broker's commission is one of the first things you take a stab at. And you take your purchase price, you multiply it times your made up broker's commission. Like I said, they usually run anywhere between 4 and 6%. So mine is 5% and my purchase price is $150,000. So there's the broker's commission. My broker's commission is being paid at closing. You could also make it so that it's paid outside of closing. And you would, instead of putting the number here, you would instead put the number here. And you'd write right here, paid commission, paid at settlement, and you'd put whoever got it, Century 21, $7,500, and then a little notation in parentheses, POC, close the parentheses, which means it's paid outside of closing. And then you don't put the number here, and you just put it there for informational purposes. If you're doing it the way I'm doing it, you put it on the seller's side because the seller's responsible for it. And then in 701 or 702, if there's more than one broker splitting this $7,500 commission, you'd list it here. So $3,000 to Century 21, $3,500 to Kelleher Williams, whatever it happens to be. Right? An origination charge is something is a charge for something that we call points. And points are prepaid interest. It's interest that you pay at the time you take out the loan, typically to buy yourself a lower interest rate. So it's usually a percentage of your loan amount. So here it's a $120,000 loan, and the points are 1%. This is 1% of the $120,000. So you multiply 1% times $120,000 and you'll get $1,200. And that's how that number appears here and there. If you remember from chapter 6, the bank is going to appraise your real estate. And when they do, they charge you for it. So there's the cost tied to the appraisal. And for purpose of your outside project, you're going to make up the name of an appraiser and insert a price. If you want points on your loan, you will do 1% or 0.5%, whatever you choose it to be, of your loan amount. And you'll insert that number right here. The other thing the bank will require be done is that your credit, the buyer's credit be run. So the credit report to the mortgagee and a charge for that, $15, $16, $17, $12 is in the ballpark. Sometimes it's weird numbers like $5 and $9.52 or something. When you come down to the 900 block, now we're talking about interest that you pay in advance, not escrows, but fees, things you actually pay. One of the things the bank will require you to do is purchase the first year's homeowner's insurance and pay it before closing. So it's 1 year to the name of the insurance company, and you can make that up for your purpose of your outside project. And here's that POC, paid outside of closing, and it costs $600 to get the first year's premium. So it's the premium that starts the day of the closing and runs for 1 year later, to a date that's 1 year later. The other thing that the bank is going to collect at closing is what's called per diem interest. And that's interest from the day of the closing, right, which is September 15th, 2010 in my case. So from the day of the closing to the last day of that month. And then the bank would tell you exactly what the interest is per day on the loan. And I used a nice easy number of $25. You can do the same thing. It's never that simple. It's usually like, $13.72, $45.15, 15 cents. It's never just a round number, but I used a round number and you're free to do the same. So then you multiply the number of days times the per diem rate and you get this number here. In the thousands, the bank wants you to deposit with them, the lender wants you to deposit with them certain reserves. Okay, that's money you're not paying, but you're just letting the lender hold for you. And one of the things the lender will want to hold, they don't always hold it, but they like to hold it, is property taxes to cover the next quarterly bill that's coming out. So it's typically 3 months that they'll collect. Sometimes it's 2 months. And then what you do is you take the annual tax bill, okay, and you can do that for Magnolia because you can look it up. The annual taxes for this year, you divide it by 12 months, and that number goes right here. Then you multiply 3 times that number, and you get the total, and you stick it here. They do the same thing with the homeowners insurance. See, a year's worth of homeowners insurance costs $600. If you divide 600 by 12, you get 50, and 3 times 50 is 150. So 3 months, and this is a way of collecting. This pays the first year from September 15th, 2010 to September 15th, 2011. And these 3 months that the bank is collecting is for September 15th, for September 2011, October 2011, and November 2011. It's the next 3 months in 2011 that they're collecting up front. And it's so that by the first anniversary, they've got 3 months, and then they're going to collect this monthly from the lender, the borrower. Each month, they'll collect an additional $150, just 50 plus that 100, in addition to the principal and interest due on the loan, so that they'll have the reserves built up for the quarterly tax bill and the annual homeowners insurance. Title insurance is the next thing you deal with. Okay. Um, the title insurance company has a used to be a chart. Now it's you just plug the numbers into their computer program, and it'll tell you exactly what the insurance costs. So don't worry about on your outside project how much you actually charge for title insurance, but understand that the lender's policy, the policy that the bank has issued to it, goes up to the loan amount of $150,000, but the owner's policy, the policy the buyer wants issued to him or her, goes up to the purchase price. Okay, and then you could just make up an amount as a charge for homeowners insurance. And then the other thing that you will pay, a borrower will pay at closing, is a fee to the bank's attorney. So $750 is pretty average. So you'll see whatever number that is there. Okay. Then we get into recording charges. Okay, it costs $125 to record a deed, $175 to record a mortgage, and then releases like the discharges on the existing mortgages, like the Browns' existing mortgages, are $75 each. Okay, so the buyer will pay to record the deed and the mortgage. That's $300. And this municipal lien certificate, which will be issued by the city or town that the property is located. In our case, it's the city of Lynn, which will show that the taxes are paid or unpaid, and in which case then you collect that money at closing. But assuming they're paid, you just record the certificate to prove that they've been paid. So $365 is the cost to record those 3 things. It appears right here. This is to record 2 discharges of mortgage, and that appears right there. And then this county stamp tax that we pay in Massachusetts, we actually pay it to the state, but it goes from the county to the state, is $4.56 per $1,000 of purchase price. So you take your purchase price of $150,000, You divide it by 1,000 so that you have 150. And then you multiply the 150 times $4.56 and you'll get $684. So this number is going to vary based upon the purchase price. The higher the purchase price, the higher this number goes. And the seller pays that, so it appears over here. Then you total everything in your seller's column and you put it right there. And then you total everything in your buyer's column and you put the number right here. Now, if you notice, I left this page blank. This is like what you'll see on the new disclosures, the closing disclosure forms, before you see the settlement sheet portion of the closing disclosure. So it's bigger than this now. It's a couple of pages long, but it looks like this. And you'll notice I didn't complete it before. And the reason I don't complete it and you don't complete it as part of your outside project is this the lender would actually complete and send it to the bank's attorney or to the closing paralegal. And so we don't complete this. It's information that's provided to us. So I don't see the point in making you prepare it for part of your outside project. The essential part is the pieces that we complete. So once you've totaled these two sides, you put the totals here, and you notice this one's 4302 and 50 cents, and here's 4302 and 50 cents. And see this 8334? Watch. 8334. So that's appearing here. Okay. Now the hardest thing you're going to have to do is calculate the real estate tax. Okay. And what you need to do is figure out how much, whether the real estate taxes are paid and overpaid or paid and underpaid, meaning been paid up to date. All right. And the way that works is this. The tax bill is in Massachusetts runs on a fiscal year of July 1 through June 30th. And the bills come out quarterly on August 1st, November 1st, February 1st, and May 1st. And each quarterly bill covers 3 months. So the August bill covers the months of July, August, and September through September 30th. The November bill covers October, November, and December through December 31st. The February bill covers January, February, and March through March 31st. And the April bill, rather the May bill covers April, May, and June through June 30th, which is the end of the fiscal year. Okay? So what you need to do is, in real life, you actually find out if the bill is paid or not, and if there's any deficiency. And assuming the bill is current, meaning that every bill that's been issued is paid, you figure out whether the seller has already overpaid the taxes by paying that quarterly bill, or if it's not yet paid, are they underpaid? Okay. So in this case, we closed on September 15th. So the August bill was already paid. So it covered the months of July, August, and September through September 30th. But the seller is selling on September 15th, so he needs to be reimbursed from the 15th through the 30th. Okay? And then what you do is you take your annual tax bill, which you can get from the Patriot Properties website for the City of Lynn. You divide it by 365. You get a per day charge, if you will. In other words, you figure out what the taxes are on the property per day. And then you count up the number of days between September 15th and September 30th. Okay, and the buyer pays for the 15th. So you go, okay, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. I have 16 days between the 15th and the 30th. So you take the per day charge, you multiply times 60, 16 rather, and that number appears here, okay? If instead we were closing on July 15th and the August bill wasn't out yet, okay? Meaning the fiscal year began on July 1st, the seller's not selling until July 15th, and the bill won't be out until after closing. So there's taxes that are unpaid by the seller for a period of time that he owns the property and is living there. And you put that adjustment on line 210 and 510. So you go from July 1st, the day of the fiscal year, to July 15th, again, 16 days. You multiply it times the per day charge, and the same number, 5264, would go here, and 5264 would go there. Okay? Then what you do is you add up everything that's in this column, and you put the total right here on 120. So you add up all these, and the total goes on 120. You add up from 201 to 219, and you put the total on 220. You take your line 120, and it's right here. You take your line 220, it's right here. You subtract them. If the number is a positive number, you put an X in the from box, and this tells the borrower they have to bring this much money to the closing table. If this was a negative, meaning the borrower already had plenty of money at the closing table already, and he's going to take a check home, you put cash to borrower. Do the same thing on this side. You total up line 401 to 412. You put the total at 420. You total 501 to 519. You put the total at 520. You take your 420 number, you bring it down. You take your 520 number down, you bring it down. You subtract them. You put the difference here. If it's a positive number, you put an X in the to box. If it's a negative number, you put an X in the from box. And that is pretty much how you do your the settlement portion of the settlement statement. And it's now the settlement portion of the closing statement. And like I said, I'm going to have a closing statement on the computer for you to complete, but I just want you to see this and do it on this, because I think it's going to be a little bit easier to learn it here and then translate it. The translation, I don't think is going to be hard once everybody gets accustomed to it. But I don't want you people doing more than anybody in the practice is really familiar with themselves. So that's going to end this session.